So Adrian Bridge, live and work in Portugal. I run a family business called Taylor's Port, which was founded back in 1692. So by definition, we probably talk about the legacy issue, around 330 years. But in terms of sustainability, we work and operate in the Loureiro Valley, which is the UNESCO World Heritage Site. We're very active. We're trying to work with farmers, bring in best practice, and then we kind of, about 6 years ago, moved that work into a more international area by
So my name is Martim from Aveleda. So I'm part of the fifth generation of this family company. So we've run for just over 150 years. So we're based in Kell, here on Porto, in the heart of the Loureiro region. We are the leading company and the big brands like Aveleda, with our Parcela, that is like Porto, the moment like Kell, so I think that's something that's been around for a long time. We just used to use that name. We just want to care for nature, care for people, those kinds of expression. But I think that was always the DNA of the family, caring for the place where we live and for people that work. So I have something that's not new, something that's adapted. From delivering grapes to making our own wine. So that was the history, the new step. Since I always grew up in the country, in the agriculture, natural working was always important for me. And so 20 years ago, I converted to a state dynamic practices, which is not only a practice, but it's more a lifestyle or something the family is comfortable with.
I'd like to start by asking each of you about the intersection between family nursing and a future-orientated mindset. So your families all have deep roots in the region. How does this family legacy shape your approach to long-term stewardship of the land?
Yes, so as you say, we've been there for 333 years, so we rather feel that we are somewhat established in the region, and it's our region, it's our home. We look at, it's quite interesting, recently we did some redevelopment, constructing something called the World of Wine in the city of Porto, and everyone said, why do you why do these things? Because this is our city, this is our home, and it actually matters what happens. I think it's exactly the same with the vineyards. We first bought property in 1744 in Loureiro. The reason we bought it was that the family at the time felt that owning vineyards allowed them to be engaged in the entire cycle, so being involved in the production of micrograpes, which wasn't what we were doing back then. They were pretty much those somewhat remote in the Loureiro Valley. We felt it was important to have that ownership. We continue to do that over the years. But we've always seen it as being part of a responsibility to look after the region. So if I look back in 20 people in parts of our campus, we've got in the middle of the 19th century, I think John Cox, who was involved very much in the region. There was a man called John Fladgate, Baron Fladgate, and the reason for that was that he took it upon himself to try to find a solution for Lombard. And the Portuguese government made him a baron of Portugal precisely because he was trying to produce a solution which was going to benefit the entire valley. And I think it's that custodian approach of it's important. I think also in a place like this, it is an important legacy. It's about leadership. It's about showing what can be done, and then having generated and shown by example what can be done, encouraging people to follow, and therefore having an overall benefit from that. Let's say face it, if everybody's making better grapes and everybody's making better wine, it's going to be better for our region, it's going to make us more commercially successful as well. So there's an alternative, but it's our home.
I have a quick follow-up question, which is the world wine related to emissions. It was important for you to bring agriculture past wine into an urban setting to promote that.
I think what's important is to be able to convey funds and education to the end consumer. Sometimes we as a wine industry we find very intimidating, and by having something in the city, it's very available. I think for people to travel to a vineyard region and knock on a winery's door, they feel they need to have a greater level of knowledge. And it's quite the way it works in the city, free to come in to experience it all. And we've done it in Porto. There's a lot of people now who come to Porto, many of them arriving in Lisbon thinking they're going to be county court. It's a long way away, Lisbon's a long way away from Porto. So what did we do? We had two choices. We encouraged them to come north, or we went south, and we opened up a visitor centre out in Lisbon as well. So it is this point about engaging the consumer and helping them understand. And I think that's when we're talking about sustainability and the environment, getting the consumers care. So we better explain them.
So I guess a lot of touch points with what Adrian talked about. We're founding within the region for a long time, and we are the leading winery in the region. So this is our land, and it's going to be for a long time. So a long-term perspective, I think is what really shapes family companies and what inspires us, because we are going to be here, so we have to work together with nature. I think what's kind of particular about the area is that it's very fragmented. So there are 20,000 wine producers, all very small, of course. So we also have a responsibility to engage them, to inspire them, to have better sustainable practices. So we're very concerned about sharing all our practices very open with all our suppliers and others as well in the region. So I think that helps also for the long term implementation. As for the question of who inspires, not just that talked about 5 generations, and in all generations there was always that one person who was very passionate about nature, between planting or gardens. I mean, we have a very special historic garden. We have 370 identified botanical species in our garden, which is like fantastic, and that's been done generation after generation. There never was like a big master thought, because every generation added some like great grandfather, great entrepreneur, but not good tradition. So he was a very, very special person with a very good vision for the future. He started everybody added something that I knew very well, my grandfather taught me. He was very passionate about botanics and the plants and everything, so he got a big house, flowers all around. This kind of small things are inspirations for us to see that we can work with nature more and more and more and more.
Quick follow-up question. Economically sustainable in areas, some markets, the UK, for example, in the US, is concerned with popularity. There's a tendency for it to come under price pressure. Do you feel you have a role to play in maintaining this sort of the welcome aspects of popularity, like brand recognition, while at the same time working sustainably and efficiently?
Yeah, it's a very interesting challenge, and I think we're at a very interesting point in time to do that for the regional beer. I think it's a very interesting stage. It's like a very multiple for, let's say, the classic beer that is got this very well-known style that's appealing a lot of people, but there's also a lot of very interesting high-end beer like sometimes and so I think my wife, roughly population, is working on communication with two styles of the classic style, and there's not so, but there's also style that are very different wines that don't have any residual sugar or any sugar. It's a very different style, but are just great white wine from a region that has all the conditions to make white wines. So we have to complicate these two different styles that they can go hand in hand. And of course, sustainability that we have to employ, of course. That's what we have to do. This is changing at this time. It's a very competitive in a very sustainable way. So I think it is a very
Michael, I wanted to ask you the same question, and also with an addition about how we can plan expansion easily and eliminate your range. What's the history of this vineyard, and how does it relate to your historic family holdings?
First, questions about and it's the inspiration or
Yes.
when the vineyards, the land, the houses, everything where we live on and where we work, they are all nature. And we, my generation or my wife family, we changed a lot in this historic, in this on this great surface. So we, since wine was sold earlier, we started wine production and wine sales and the company grew on old roots. The old roots are very important because the land, the hillsides, everything is our quality element. Our new goal today is to express old values with we hope with the future sales, because the wine world changes a lot at the moment. We see, especially also on the red wines, that want more and more bitter and more refreshing red wines. And we can also use our oldest variety, which almost disappeared, and now it's blooming up to a new little stuff, because it has these values which now are asking. And I thought the 50 hectares of fields we have, it suits us really well, and we don't want to become bigger. But 3 years ago, there was this vineyard for sale, which is like a bush in the forest. And had some difficulties. That was the reason it was for sale. We immediately fell in love with this one shaped orchard vineyard. There are also 300 olive trees there. And for us, new aspect was that there were only resistant varieties, which are also quite new. We thought resistant varieties is not what we are looking for. We are looking for old values, but we kept these resistant varieties and tried to make decent and modern, elegant wine.
The hybrid varieties. Yes. Fascinating. So I also wanted to ask each of you about your particular attitude to the preservation of cultural heritage and the role of that within your vineyards and your broader strategy.
So I mentioned the Douro is UNESCO World Heritage Site, so is Portugal as well. So this is important, I think, because UNESCO recognizes locations very special forest. The Douro Valley is this extraordinary location which is very significant. And we as a company have got we actually have about 190 kilometers of dry stone. So actually from our our offices in Porto all the way up to Parcela, so it's like a continuous route, essentially the rural covers just stacked in a few terraces, but in a few vineyards. But the point is that is the essence of the Douro and something that needs to be protected. I mean, in economic terms now, there are challenges to that, because clearly anything in those traditional vineyard structures require much higher labour. So it's a huge challenge as well. So, we feel very strongly about protecting that environment, being able to share it is one of the most beautiful contributions. But also, it's not just about the cultural heritage, it's also about the cultural heritage. Obviously, Sarah, you're an expert in old vines, and consider talking about intergenerational businesses. We make some of our best wines of vines that were planted by the prior generation. And in a sense, we plant today for the future generation. So if we can respect that landscape, respect those traditional grape varieties, plant for the future, but at the same time benefit from vines that were put down by the previous generations. I think we play a very important role in this continuum of community and society with a purpose.
A very interesting topic related to culture and so much we can do more and have more. We have to study a lot more is the aspect of the ecosystem around each vine. So in our case, on average, we plant about 1,000 trees every year just around the vine. That's a lot. But I think it's something that we have to understand and explain how it works. But we are very confident that the ecosystem is much more complex than we think at first. It's not just the vine. It's all the other plants that are around the vine. It's all the insects, it's all the fauna and flora around it. And I think the studies and the research about it just started. There is so much that we don't know yet about how this ecosystem interacts. So I think that's a legacy that we will also for the future of us as a sector. And every region is different. Of course, Porto is much wider region, very great, so much more things. So much different. In each of them there's so much research to make. So I think that's also something that we can study and it's very exciting.
Inspired me in history. In my case, it was mostly my grandmother, my mother, which had a great love for nature, for the particular little things in nature. And now I'm already inspired by my next generation, because they were brought up already with another idea of natural and of healthy life, healthy food, healthy drinking. And so I get inspirations from all the generations. We think when we ask the next generation, we say we inspire them, but I feel all generations around me, and I think that's how our land, our business, it's related to long-term. As I said before, the best wines are always the older wines. We had to change a lot, but my future wine is made also from the oldest indigenous variety. And I think that's important, and that gives every region also identity between all the other regions.
And the other part of the question was, sorry, what was I yes. So, just to give it a bit more context, at a time when the social license of wine is being challenged, do you think the cultural value and agricultural heritage of wine is becoming more important? And how do we integrate that philosophy into what we do?
I think now is a time that's very interesting, because for a period the farmers were the bad boys. The farmers were the ones who sort of implemented the area instead, because nobody looked spices. So I think that with the next generation, there will be much more aware of the work behind it, why, in our case, good wine has to have its price.
Yes.
Because there's so much labor, so much work, so much art in it. So there will always be the industrial prices, but also the prices for niche wines.
Follow-up question, which is prompted by your mention of the UNESCO agricultural heritage for Loureiro. There are other regions, wine regions with that, so Meliano, Valdomiano, Barolo, and of course then there are other schemes such as the United Nations GIAS Global Agricultural Heritage Systems. Do you think that this placing of wine in this context of broader agricultural heritage and agriculture as heritage, as important as a beautiful temple or cathedral, do you think that placing wine in that context is an opportunity that you or in general the wine industry is fully optimised in how we talk about farming heart wine and how we talk about the value of the skills that go into making great wine? So that's a really long question.
Well, it's a long question. It's a big subject. We can have an entire conference just I think on that one. Look, I think that the point you're raising is very important. I think that if we look back in the history of wine, let's say over the last sort of 50 years or so, people drank wine. It was something you didn't think very much about it. It was somewhat taken for granted in the agricultural communities. People basically carried on doing what they were doing for centuries. And with the increase in wine knowledge that's taken place over the last sort of 40 years or so, people are engaged, they're visiting the regions, they're beginning to care a lot more. And I think that trend is going to continue. And with that increased knowledge, there will be an increased awareness of the importance of cultural heritage, what makes wine special, what makes wine special. I think also that there is another important aspect to this, is that people who live in a region take things for granted. It's very easy, they're very casual about the environment. It's not people waking up to some consequences, but people are very casual about where they live. It is where I live, it's nothing special. And yet suddenly, a global body comes along and says, you are special, you are unique, you stand out, you represent something. And that creates a stronger sense of pride, a greater sense of ownership, and I think a greater sense of the desire to maintain and look after it. So I find this whole attribution of these sorts of awards to be a very positive, self-fulfilling, positive cycle that can be created. And we're very happy to be part of that.
Definitely there's room to integrate viticulture with agriculture in general. There are a lot of other, it's very interesting to integrate, let's say, olive oil or corn, for instance, and so many other things that can be leveraged by just plant something. I think it's the aspect of wine tourism, historic wine tourism, about people tasting wine and visiting the cellars and having meals. The agriculture aspect is very, very central to our wine tourism model in general, and I think that's something that can be further developed. And it's actually also a way to help pass knowledge to visitors about agriculture in general, that now there's so much more to the bottom of wine than just what we see in agriculture. So I think we have a great community about it, and I think that visitors are more and more interested in these people as they have more knowledge about wine and agriculture.
So very quick follow-up. Are there any plans or discussions within your denomination to apply for these
Dolomites. The Dolomites are also very, very popular to visit, to see, and we are like a very touristy area. Wine tourism is getting more and more, so it's very important for us to really keep the land attractive. And the other way, challenges also like climate change, like intense weathers, lots of rainstorms, where we have to save also our crop, which is in terms of keeping the countryside difficult, because nowadays we need to put nets against nets over the lines, and that's not so pretty anymore. So there is a big challenge for us to preserve as much as we can and add new values so it always stays attractive. And I think that's very important for many wineries.
I attended the summer Manincor one of the greatest trade tasting availability in the world. Very well attended and really done and very culturally embedded. And then my last question to all of you, when you've spoken about the strengths of being a family legacy, of having that sense of confidence and security, as well as deep connection that's allowed you to show this leadership. What about the challenges of being within that kind of family legacy? Does it make it more nerve-wracking for you to really consider very innovative or iconoclastic decisions and innovations?
Again, a nice broad question on family business in two ways, because obviously in any family business you have an absolute objective as a family. Obviously it comes down to individuals and family dynamics and all sorts of other things that make family business fun and challenging in lots of different ways. But I think if people believe in the vision, why we're doing this, what is the reason that we are here, and making sure that the family members who are aligned are the ones that are involved, and making sure that those who perhaps don't share these values don't feel that they have to be involved simply because they're part of the family, creating that space for people to be okay to be outside, so that those people who really care about it can be drive it forward. And you make a strong point in terms of family business. We tend to think long term, so at least thinking about multi-generational, hugely important decisions. And that's why I think the wine industry has such a powerful role to play in leading the question of agricultural issues and climate change, simply because we think multi-generational. But we're all humans, and so therefore there are challenges that we're overlooked. A sense of purpose and vision, successful.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's all related to people understanding the why. Relating to our particular case, the family, I'm the 5th generation, we are 14 of us, but the 6th generation is already out here, and there are 48 of them. So a lot of offspring coming. This is a challenge, because the family is getting larger.
You are fruitful.
Yeah, not me, my cousins. But it's difficult to pass this culture to so many people, and more and more people understand. As you know, nowadays family is also more and more global. People go study abroad, so this is a big bunch of people that are living in different countries. So how to get them connected to the States, to the family business, to the winery, it's a challenge. So in our case, the response is doing a lot of investing also in the family heritage, and I mean specifically in houses that the family can we have 3 going to 4 houses that the family can rotationally, like time sharing in a way. So this is seen by the family as maybe a place for holidays, but it's also a place for connection, because if you are in the world, if you are in the region, so they will understand, so they will grow up, since they are very small, since they are starting to walk, they're already working in the vineyard and having that kind of sense of feeling. So our objective is that the family doesn't look at the business just like, where's my dividend going to come? But they look at it from a very different perspective. And if they grow up, they work there when they work very different. Keep something in perspective. It's very helpful.
There is many same situations for the three of us, for many others. I see our role today not to keep the values, the family values, bring them to a new aspect. Our children grow up completely different with the not so narrow set rules, but the values. The world gets more and more colorful, families get more and more colorful. We also have a family website. It's about the big family.com. There are more than 1,000 people on this site. And every day I get the message, I need a nanny in Osaka, or who of the families in Melbourne, we need a place to stay. So this kind of family network, where you know they all have similar values, is very important. It's also important to carry on a piece of steady land to your children and the next generation have something to eat from, to live on, to feel comfortable. So I think with every generation it changes, but it's great when you can keep good and important values in the family.
Thank you for your candor. You've each brought a wine, I mean. Could I ask you just to briefly tell us about this wine and how it expresses your approach to sustainability in your family? Michael, would you like to go first?
It's red.
So the wine I brought is a red wine from our oldest variety, indigenous variety, which is called in Italian, it's called Schiava. And it's a very light red wine, usually with 12 to 14 alcohol. And I think it expresses also the beauty of a red wine when it's not so heavy. And we have all different types of wines in the world. And we saw that this wine was not so important a generation ago because it was mass wine. Today we selected to make a fine, elegant wine, and when I go to even to New York, to the sommeliers, they say we need now lighter and drinking red wines. That's one of them. We think it's a very modern red wine coming from old vines.
I absolutely love Schiava. It's a real geek choice. I know it's red, but I thought it would be fine to start with it because also the old idea of white before red and red is always heavier. You know, these categories are becoming very much more elastic.
Sorry. Here comes it.
Thank you.
So first thing I thought it was interesting that both Adrian and me chose Loureiro. That's an interesting coincidence. And as you know, in the Vinho Verde region, the Alvarinho is the best known grape. But we believe Loureiro has great potential. It's one that's very implemented in the region. And it's so fresh and elegant and aromatic. So it's a great type. I think it's going to in the future to be much more than it is today. So that's why as a company we learn a lot of Loureiro. A lot. And so this one is from a very small specific parcel close to our headquarters, or our family house. and it's also close to our where we work, that we implement most of our sustainable practices, because you know a lot of people we trial and error and working for long term.
Quer provar? Ele já conhece.
So some of these also are practices, so that's essentially we try to make the best of our Loureiro, so our Convento, Loureiro.
Thank you. I really like the kind of fine, stony, chalky that one. Salty as well.
Which is price.
So I've also brought a Loureiro, so an indigenous grape variety, probably because I thought that sort of 10 o'clock on Monday morning, that's fortify you for the rest of the day. Might have been a little bit heavy. But you know, this is a celebration of isn't it, of great wines, great wine varieties. Here is an indigenous Portuguese variety, Loureiro. This is a 2020, and I think that's also quite interesting. Instead of 22, this is a great variety that can age. And I think that's something that, again, you know, you talked earlier, Sarah, about the fact that the wines from the Minho region, historically this was categorized as Minho Verde. Nowadays, we tend to make a differentiation between what we call the Alto Minho, right up on the Spanish border, which would be where the Alvaricos come from, and the Baixo Minho, which for us is where we have our Loureiro grape varieties. This particular one, which is called Royal Palmeira, comes from a property near Braga. It was a property that was owned by the Archbishop of Braga, who was the third son of the king, who built this palace on the edge of the river. As you know, and if we were to walk this entire Provine, we would find many, many stories of where some of those best grape varieties were first discovered by the church and then have subsequently gone on to be developed by other individuals. And this is the case. This is a property that one of the properties, beautiful grape variety, lovely soil that we have there, making wine that I think has that elegance and freshness about it. But the aging capacity that shows you the sort of roundness and fullness that can be achieved. You can see actually some religious connotations on the bottle itself, so we have the Archbishop's hat and so on, and indeed on the tiles there, the tiles are actually a copy of the tiles that we found in the chapel at the palace. So you know, it brings the whole story together with, as I say, an indigenous grape variety, and this really talks to how diverse all of our different wine regions are, and we're here talking about Portugal, but obviously Austria, Italy, and so on. Incredible stories, cultural diversity in terms of the buildings, but also indigenous grape varieties, and this is what wine and grape wines make of. Fun stories, fun history.
Well said. Thank you so much. I love the kind of detailed, really fresh herbs in that wine, and I think it's aging beautifully. And thank you. I'd like to thank you all, of course, for your leadership and for your time, and thank you very much for the show.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.